Linda posted a question about thyroid, adrenals, and cortisol, is what she mentioned. And not sure if she just mentioned it, and not sure if you know or not, but those are very connected. It's called the OAT axis, ovarian, adrenal, thyroid axis. And it's like a three-legged stool. So imagine a stool, which, a bar stool that has three legs. If one of the legs even is loose or falls off, then you are not going to be able to keep that stool upright. You will not have the balance that you need. Um, and so it absolutely needs to be balanced in all aspects to have hormonal balance. So I've told you guys, quite a few times about my story last time and this time, but I will get into a part here that I'm going to really specify about. So kind of like Jacqueline was mentioning, I was completely bedridden. All of a sudden, bedridden, 5 months, couldn't exercise, couldn't empty a dishwasher, couldn't walk, couldn't anything, completely horizontal. And when I had that episode, I think I mentioned to you guys, I saw multiple specialties and different doctors, and I ended up seeing two endocrinologists, and one of them, the second one, was dear friend of mine. And she said, Zankna, come on in, like, I've got to see you, what is going on? And so she did all my thyroid panel, testing and all of that. And at the time, my TSH showed up high, higher than it had ever been for the last few years. Because every time I got my physical, they would check my TSH, and it was pretty good, in the 1.5, 2.0 ranges. And then when she tested me, this is when I was completely sick and bedridden. And so, of course, my adrenals were taken out. My thyroid had gone up quite a bit, like 2.9. Then when I saw her maybe 3 to 5 months later, it went up to like 3.5. It went up to 4. And that was when she said, oh my gosh, I think you need to, 5 is a cutoff, but I think you're showing signs that you're trending upwards. And so she ended up putting me on thyroid meds. She put me on Synthroid, I believe. And I could only tolerate that for maybe 4 weeks. I was not able to tolerate it at all. So then she put me on a different one, levothyroxine or something like that, and she put me on different meds, and I couldn't tolerate that at all. And by that point, I had already done this 8 months of this ringer, so I knew that I really needed to be treated from a functional medicine perspective. But that was my first learning experience, real life. Now, I learned it all in theory about the OAT axis and ovarian adrenal thyroid axis, but I've never had thyroid problems. I've never had my numbers obviously go that high that they had in just those 6 months. And so for me, this told a very clear story that my adrenals were taken out. And because one leg of that stool was broken, then it was affecting the other two legs, and I was not standing. So if any of these is out of balance, it affects the entire circuit. And though you guys are aware of this, but the common symptoms of adrenal fatigue are irregular and heavy periods and headaches and hypoglycemia and low blood pressure and irritability. You're completely bedridden, lack of, physical activity. You're unable to tolerate any physical exertion, water retention, weight gain, easily falling sick. And the symptoms as well, or you probably address the symptoms of hyperthyroidism or hypothyroidism. So when you've got all these symptoms going on, instead of just doing band-aid, patchwork for your thyroids and putting on thyroid meds, or for your adrenals, you really have to see and treat the system as a whole. And of course, from the functional medicine perspective, the first thing they're going to work on is your gut, because of the inflammation in your gut, because of everything that the inflammatory process that basically made your gut very leaky. It opened up the pores, and now stuff is going through, and then your body's reacting to it. So from the functional medicine perspective, that's the first thing they're going to work on. But the next set of things that they're going to work on is, obviously your cortisol. They test your cortisol. They will test your thyroid, and really start to work with you on those aspects. What can you do at home if you don't have access to this or unable to afford, a lot of these treatments? Then you have to heal your thyroid and your adrenals. How can you do that? Again, the grounding, the sun first thing in the morning, some very good supplements basic supplements that you can be on, from vitamin C. I think I talked about it earlier, about vitamin C, zinc, quercetin, things like that. Magnesium is critical, iron, those kinds of things. And then, avoid stimulants, avoid coffee completely. I gave up coffee for, I believe, 4 years. If you saw my post on the page 2 or 3 days ago, um, I finally got a decaf cappuccino after, gosh, maybe 6, 8 months. I had completely given up coffee because it's very overly stimulating to an already stressed out adrenal gland. And so avoid stimulants, get 8 hours of sleep. It is critical that you get 8 hours of sleep to heal your body, to heal these organs that are struggling and that are strained right now. Managing your stress levels, very, very critical. You have to manage your stress levels, and bring those stress levels down so your adrenals are not constantly firing and producing, and they're already stressed out and they're already exhausted. And then, of course, like I mentioned, the 4-point cortisol test, very important to see what level of adrenal fatigue, and if you need, what kind of adaptogens do you need? Do you need some that'll ramp you up? Or do you need some that'll kind of bring down the cortisol response? And then for thyroid tests, I was having a discussion with someone today online, and they said, "Oh, my doctor does TSH, every year." Well, unfortunately, TSH is not a good marker, especially if that's the only thing that's being done. If you even go to your regular physician, primary care physician, they need to be doing your TSH, your T3, your reverse T3, your T4, reverse T4, and then your thyroid antibodies. And these give you a better indicator of where your thyroid is. Versus just doing your TSH, which is correct, like it'll show up over time, but it's too late at that point. You really need to see the other things, and you need to see your thyroid antibodies, to really catch this in the early phases. I've made this joke before, and my friends laugh at me quite a bit. When you go to the doctor and they tell you, "Oh, you're borderline diabetic," or, "Oh, you're borderline thyroid, we're just going to wait and watch." Wait and watch what? What are you waiting and watching? You need to change this scenario very quickly, not wait and watch until a year from now when I come back. You're going to put me on diabetes meds. You're going to put me on thyroid meds. There's no waiting and watching. At that point, changes have, your body's already trying to tell you that these numbers are increasing, these things are looking off track a little bit. Start making the changes, start exercising, start changing your diet, start eating very clean, bring your insulin resistance down, bring your fasting insulin down. We're not going to wait and watch. We're not going to wait and watch for anything. We are going to be proactive. We're not going to be reactive. Um, if you watched the game yesterday, UNC played Kansas, and it was just, there was a lot of, UNC had to do a lot of defense, and it shouldn't be like that. We should have to, from the beginning, be able to protect ourselves and give your body the tools that it needs to start healing itself. Not let's wait and watch and then come back next year and I'll put you on, metformin, or I'll put you on blood pressure meds, or I'll put you on thyroid meds. It doesn't, that's not how it works. And so, be proactive in your cause, be proactive, educate yourself, and go to your doctor armed with all this information and say, "No, I don't want to wait and watch for my thyroid to go up some more. I don't want to wait and watch until I get to the threshold level for you to put me on, Synthroid, or for you to put me on metformin or anything like that." So those are very critical, levels and things to know.